Hello. About 6 months ago, I made a video talking about the Borderlands trailer and how bad I thought it was going to be, and I can confidently say it's about as bad as I expected. Also, a quick note, that is probably the worst video I've ever made, and it's somehow the most viewed video I've ever made. I don't know how, because I made that in 6 hours on a Saturday night, where I just said, fuck it, I'm just gonna mash some shit together and make this real quick. Sorry if you had to watch that and experience it. I humbly apologize. Now, it took me a while to actually sit down and watch this movie, and I know I'm very, very late to it, but I had to watch it at some point. Now, I will say, the movie's not nearly as bad as some people will make it out to be. Some people were making it out to be like the worst movie of all time when you hear him the first time. In reality, it's more so just like a 3 out of 10 movie. It's not great at all. It looks good in some aspect, and I'll get to that later, but anyway, let's begin. Hello, purple hue shifted Ashiro here. I should go ahead and state I am not a Borderlands expert of the lore. I am just a simple fan of the games. Okay, bye. I'll very quickly talk about the cast and director of this movie. Eli Roth actually directed this, and I'm not familiar with nearly anything that he's ever made because he seems to usually go towards the horror genre, which is the genre of movies that I'm not really a fan of. I find them all to be pretty horrific and terrifying in a bad way. Like, they made me not want to finish the movie because they're so boring. A quick trip to his IMDb page will show you that Borderlands is the worst movie that he's made and the worst film he's ever been a part of in general. I can only imagine why, though. The casting of this movie was very odd from the very beginning. Obviously, Kevin Hart as Roland is a questionable one. Cate Blanchett as Lilith is a very questionable one. And Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis is probably a big fumble on their part. I will say, though, I don't really give any shit to any of the actors who played in this movie. I give mainly the shit towards the writing and the directing of this movie because that is the biggest flaw of this movie. The acting was not the greatest, but it wasn't horrific by any means. It was simply just the writing and directing of this movie was terrible. I will say, Cate Blanchett, I do have something to pick with you, is that you picked a role simply because you were tired during the pandemic, which is fine, I guess back then it would have been fine, but in current days tense when this movie just came out in 2024, I kind of wish you didn't take the role and just rested yourself from the pandemic. And yes, I will mention Jack Black did a decent job doing Claptrap, even though I do think it would have been better with the original voice actor and instead of him, but I think he did okay in the movie. Fair warning to anyone who hasn't watched the movie or plans on watching the movie at some point, I will be talking about the entire movie in its entirety, spoilers and all. So there's that, but I don't think you'll really care. We start off with Lilith talking about the Iridians ruling the universe before humanity and how there's a vault on Pandora before transitioning into a scene with Roland breaking Tina out of a cell. I kind of hate this beginning sequence because I feel like me and anyone who has played the Borderlands games would have 100% loved to hear Marcus's voice rather than Lilith in the beginning and talking about like the prologue to this story.
So, you want to hear another story, huh?
Roland's attempt at breaking Tina out is interrupted by Krieg, who is played by Florian Montianu. I butchered that 100%.
Monteanu.
But, oh yeah, I completely forgot to mention at least the two notable actors that I liked in this movie were Florian Montianu as Krieg. I'm butchering that still, but
Monteanu.
And Ariana Greenblatt as Tina. I don't think they did bad jobs. I think they did pretty good, actually. I actually enjoyed their performance. We get some Star Wars-esque fighting before Roland and the rest can hijack a ship and leave to Pandora. And I guess I'll mention that Commander Knox of the Crimson Lance tries to stop them, but she basically doesn't serve a single purpose in this movie, and it's kind of sad. You'll see that a lot in this movie. There's a lot of things that are just there for the Borderlands connection to like, that's in Borderlands, so we have to put it in this movie. But it's like they didn't know what to do with anything. They just sort of had them haphazardly thrown around. We're then shown a scene of Promethea while Lilith is busy bounty hunting as she takes a supposed contract into a bar for whatever reason. After a bit of small talk at the bar, she is then approached by a couple people from Atlas Things escalate rather quickly in a matter of like 10 seconds before Lilith is immediately hostile towards them and everyone evacuates the building. The camera then pans to reveal some random dude sitting in a chair, and Lilith doesn't even give him a chance to speak after one sentence. But don't worry, guys. He's not dead. It's just the guy wearing this weird hologram mask. After telling his lone standing henchman to put him on, he introduces himself as Deucalion Atlas. Obviously, he's the president of the Atlas Corporation, and this scene has a rare moment where I completely agree with Lilith on skipping the entire monologue that I'm sure this guy was about to set up. Atlas wants Lilith to help him find his daughter Tina, and apparently he can't send any other soldiers of the Crimson Lance to go find her because he needs an outside source. If someone in the US military were to do this, I have a feeling you wouldn't be able to just send more of the military because you're afraid of other insiders who are in on the job. Yeah, that doesn't make very much sense when we see just how big this army is of the Crimson Lance. This leads me to believe that Atlas somehow knows what Lilith truly is. I'd have no idea how he would know that, but you'll see what I mean during the ending portion of this movie. It could also be guessed that Atlas is just using Lilith as a sort of scapegoat to further his progression towards finding Tina instead of using his own resources, which I guess is also a plausible choice, but it's still fucking terrible. I don't understand why he decides to go for this random bounty hunter. After accepting the job for what I assume is a lot of money, Lilith travels to Pandora in what looks like an overgrown porta potty. I like to say that the CGI in this movie is overall okay, particularly the creature work and some of the environment. I will say that a lot of the shots are clearly shot on the green screen, and some of the CGI takeovers that we'll see later is just completely dog shit. My favorite parts of this movie is honestly the way the Racks and the Threshers look. I think they look great. While I'm talking about the creatures, though, I will say I wish they played a bigger part in this movie rather than just them being in the movie, because they really could have done something with them. After talking to some locals, Lilith gets on a bus with none other than the legend himself, Marcus. I really like Marcus in this movie. I think he did an amazing job. They definitely picked the right person to play him. It's sad that he doesn't play a big role in this movie, but I do enjoy his scenes. Marcus takes her to Firestone, an iconic town in Borderlands, as it's the first town you were introduced to in the game. The movie completely botches the actual appearance of Firestone though, and it looks more like a rundown dumping ground of scrap with no discernible buildings except for all the ones in the background. And I really hate that because Firestone is literally just like 5 buildings in a circle area. I feel like everyone could picture Firestone the same way and we would all be fine. Lilith looks at a satellite dish thing for like 5 seconds and then leaves immediately before camping out in the middle of nowhere. It's not like she could have used one of the buildings or whatever. But who knows? We don't know how far she traveled. Earlier, something was watching her in Firestone, and we get to see who that someone is now in this scene. And obviously it's Claptrap. And I understand that Pandora is filled with ridiculous psychos and evil people, but when Lilith hears a twig snapping in the dark, she immediately resorts to shooting. You could literally be shooting at anything. You just talk to local kids from beforehand. Or it could be a giant mutated skag or a band of nomads roaming the area. You know, who knows? Lilith sure as fuck doesn't. Thankfully, it was none of those and it was Claptrap. Claptrap had apparently been programmed to find Lilith and help her on her quest, I guess you could say. They find out where Tina was last located through the EchoNet. I'm not entirely sure how the EchoNet even works. Maybe it's a Borderlands 3 thing, and I'll be honest, I've not played Borderlands 3 nor really care to play Borderlands 3. I have it, I've bought it, but I just haven't been bothered to really play it. While it isn't entirely known how the EchoNet even functions, it is believed that DAW are the establishers of the EchoNet, and that the EchoNet is mainly ran off of radio antenna and broadcast via antenna. It is also used to pretty much gather and play and record data, as mentioned by Siri Fox 1 on Reddit. We're then shown that the Crimson Lance have been working with a band of psychos. Lilith sees this and assumes that they're here to do the same job as her, which should send some red flags to her brain really quickly, since Atlas said that he couldn't use any of his members of the Crimson Lance to get his daughter back. Lilith shoots the psycho and steals his outrunner. One of the biggest problems I have in this movie is that there's literally little to no blood, or any gore for that matter. People are getting shot, blown up, corroded, and there's just not a drop coming out of them. It's like they're fucking hollow. I get that it's a game movie, but does the director even know what the demographic of the Borderlands franchise is? After digging around a couple places, I found out that the average age that has been like widely accepted is people in their mid-20s. Now, sure, there are obviously going to be people who are very much younger than that, you know, in high school, and maybe even 13-year-olds come and play Borderlands every once in a while. I'm not too sure. But hell, I know there are 7-year-olds out there who are playing GTA. So I'm sure it wouldn't be that bad for them to watch the Borderlands movie with a little bit of gore at least. We get a pretty rad scene of a rat eating a skag as they come to Tina's last location. Lilith sees Tina's stuffed bunny and heads inside of a Hyperion cargo container. She finds Tina quite easily. Obviously, though, it's not that simple, as Tina asks her to grab her badonkadonk.
Can you grab my badonkadonk?
You what now?
Lilith is blown to shit and somehow survives. Yeah, that happened. I want to point out that Lilith clearly teleports in this scene. When she gets blown out, she's like right outside of the door, but then it cuts back to her a couple seconds later and she's like 20 feet out. So, yeah, Tina is obviously also on a green screen in this scene. After Lilith magnetically gives the broken beacon the claptrap, Tina calls for her best friend Krieg. Probably my favorite part of this movie, honestly. The fight choreography is pretty solid for what it is in this movie, and I do like the way Lilith used Krieg's like over-aggressive tendencies against him by using his body weight as a slingshot mechanism to put her up there with Tina. It was pretty cool. You know, I kind of liked it. Lilith and Tina exchange words for a moment before being interrupted by the Crimson Lance. I hate this gimmick of Tina giving someone a stuffed animal bomb and then them just being cut off mid-sentence by the explosion. Yeah, the writing is not creative whatsoever in this movie. CGI Lilith and Tina slide down to the ground before getting picked up by Roland. We get some pretty decent turret action in this chase sequence and a Wilhelm scream. And a really bad piss joke scene that a lot of people dogged on in the trailer, including me.
My mouth! Sardine showers!
They do, however, get chased to a giant thresher in which they get trapped between the thresher and the Crimson Lance. The scene is pretty cool, honestly. I actually really like it. Roland just says fuck it and drives directly into this thresher's mouth before blowing it up from the other side. And goddamn, I love Krieg's dumbass clapping. He's so excited. After this, they are stranded while Roland fixes the truck's tire with Krieg's muscular support. We find out that Tina is supposedly the daughter of Iridia and can open the vault, which leads Lilith to find out that Roland took Tina for himself. Roland gets pretty hostile in this scene and wants Lilith to leave, and Lilith just doesn't care. She basically just says, fuck you, I'm staying. Because apparently in her mind, Atlas is going to kill her if she were to go back to them now because of this chase. She could easily deny any wrongdoing against the Crimson Raiders and claim self-defense, or just never have gotten in a truck in the first place. You know, make up anything. I know they're probably psychotic, but everyone is in Pandora. It's well known. Aside from that, they begrudgingly decide to be on the same team before going to Sanctuary. We see Marcus again, who knows everyone by their gun, which is another thing I kind of wish they did more of, because there's so many different manufacturers that have distinct, like, specialties. There's not even, like, an elemental gun type. There's just nothing. Our protagonists make their way to Moxie's red light, and I do like the appearance of Moxie, honestly. I think she was played very well. Roland is recognized by Bobby Lee, or Larry. I'm just going to call him Bobby Lee. Bobby and Roland have a catching up moment, and of course Bobby is working with the Crimson Lance, so Moxie stops him from being able to tell anyone by tasing the absolute shit out of him. Quite literally. We're then introduced to Tannis, and oh my god, I cannot stress this enough, I hate Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis. I don't blame you, Jamie Lee Curtis. I blame the casting crew. Let that be known. Lilith and Tannis apparently have a lot of history. Tannis was apparently a guardian for Lilith as her mom traded her to Tannis in search of the vault, which then led to Lilith being traded on a mining ship. This is because Lilith's mother wanted her to learn how to survive. I mean, I would be pretty pissed too if my mom, or any parent for that matter, gave me up to just random people. Lilith storms out of the room and we see her do her best Batman impression before Tina comes out with her. Tina opens up about Deucalion Atlas and if he is or isn't her father, which leads to an interesting answer. According to her, Tina is not a biological daughter to Atlas, but rather a synthetic one. She was made by Atlas by using iridium blood that had been left on one of the vault keys. He also had made many different clones to get to the perfect one, and that one being Tina we follow in the movie. I kind of hate that they didn't play around with this at all during the movie because it really just acts as fuel for the audience to hate Atlas. But it doesn't really work with me because they don't do anything with this. We just get this one little emotional spill from Tina about the clones and her being one. Claptrap gets spotted by Bobby Lee as he and Captain Knox are talking to Moxie about where Tina and the rest of them are. Knox then orders the Crimson Lance to clear the streets of Sanctuary, and we then find out that the second vault key is in Caustic Caverns. God, I'm having hiccups throughout this entire recording. I really like Caustic Caverns now that I've played Borderlands 2 again recently. I think some of the coolest enemies in Borderlands 2 are from Caustic Caverns, like the Crystalisks and the Threshers. Not to mention some of the Easter eggs in that area is pretty cool, mainly the Minecraft one where you get to fight a creeper and you are rewarded with a sniper rifle that shoots the bow and arrow animation. But I will have to say I'm very disappointed with how they portrayed this place in the movie. It ends up just looking like a run-down mining factory on the side of a mountain. It very disappointed me. The only thing caustic in this place was a slight river of acid inside the mine. They couldn't have done anything else worse than putting Caustic Caverns in this movie and not fulfilling what it actually is. It's like they just read the name and thought, oh, it means cave, so it's gotta be inside. It can't be outdoors. Come on, man. If this is a mine, where the fuck is the crystals or the ores that they're mining? They're nowhere to be seen. I'm flabbergasted, by the way, that there's nothing there that resembles what the fuck they're in. They come across a bunch of psychos called the Bloodshots, and I gotta say, if you were an extra in this movie and got to be a Bloodshot, I love that for you. Because the Bloodshots do look really good. I actually think the extra work has been very solid throughout the first half of the movie. Claptrap is given the order to create a distraction while the rest of them go into the storage room. I will also say this, and this is like the 20th time I'm probably going to be interrupting. Where are the cool chests? Like, where are the treasure chests that are manufactured by different, like, the gun companies, the weapon manufacturers, like Dahl, Atlas, Hyperion? Where are they? They're all just bland boxes. Lilith finds the second vault key in like 30 seconds because movie magic. Claptrap has to take a massive shit, so they get attacked and ambushed by like 200 Bloodshots. Once again, there are people dying, gruesome deaths, and we see no blood whatsoever. What the fuck? Krieg and Roland have to make a last stand effort as Tannis tries to fix the service elevator for them to leave. Roland then notices a faulty wire and has to try to fix it on his own and take his last stand. He fixes it, sending the rest of them up to the surface while he uses Tina's Bob, I love Bob, to blow up a portion of the remaining Bloodshots before he is inevitably overwhelmed. We then cut back to our remaining crew as they blast through the elevator shaft and are teleported to the ground before they could crash down. It's implied that Tina is the one who phase walked them to safety. However, if you played the game at all, you will know that it's not. Tannis also tells Lilith that she doesn't know if opening the vault would mean that Tina would die, since the vault key needs to consume the keys in order to be opened. Lilith is immediately worried about it, asking if Tannis is ready to take the risk, which kind of bothers me, because earlier in the movie, Lilith couldn't stand being around this group of people, and now that some simple stuff has happened and we've gone to a couple of adventures, she suddenly cares deeply about these people and what happens to them. It doesn't really make a lot of sense that someone's emotions about someone would change so drastically in such a short amount of time. We are then shown that Roland is perfectly fine, not even a scratch on him, just sweat. And then once again, not even blood. He just murdered a bunch of Bloodshots. No blood. God damn this movie. Oh, okay, come on. There's not much left. There's not much left. It's late at night, Lilith is still awake and thinking about dark shit, I'm sure, as Claptrap comes to her with her fixed beacon from earlier. Lilith takes it and smashes it into a wall before being approached by a random Atlas drone. The drone is a hologram for Atlas as Deucalion Atlas talks to Lilith about how the beacon had been a tracking device the whole time. Surprise to no one. This movie really tries to make you care for these characters and hate Atlas. Atlas is probably the worst villain I've seen in a film for like the past decade because he doesn't serve any purpose. He doesn't do anything. All he does is talk for a minute straight about himself and how evil he is and what he'll do. And there's very little character development with him and anyone in the group. As Atlas finishes his speech to Lilith about her payment whenever the job is done, even though you clearly see how Lilith is not doing her job, Tina catches the last bit of their interaction, leading her to believe that Lilith is working with Atlas, which gives us another zinger of a grenade moment.
Too bad you won't be around to see it.
Wait,
Enjoy your freedom.
Tina! Tina, no!
Lilith wakes up to find everyone except Claptrap gone before walking out to a nearby village. This is where she grew up, exploring her old childhood home as she remembers memories of when she had been giving up to Tanis years ago. Claptrap then has a short circuit attack and emits a hologram of Lilith's mother. She talks about knowing that Lilith wouldn't be safe on Pandora and that she programmed, or at least had Claptrap programmed, to always be able to find her. Once again, I'm not too sure how the fuck that even works, but movie magic, I guess, and plot armor. We find Tina and the others finding the vault location, and of course Krieg has to be the one to find it. However, when Tina goes to try and open it, it doesn't work, and then goofy-ass Atlas makes an entrance again as he sets a camouflage shield down to reveal him and the Crimson Lance and the remaining Bloodshots. Roland ziplines down to try and kill Atlas before he shows off his OP shield. He accepts that he'll just have to make another clone and orders that they should all die. This doesn't happen, however, because Commander Knox wants to suddenly be a good person again and defend them. Before getting completely blasted with these. Lilith comes back and has discovered that she's the daughter of Iridia. We're given these cheesily edited clips from her memories, almost as complex as a kindergarten class puzzle. So, do you remember this, guys? This happened earlier in the movie, even though it was just 20 minutes ago. At least we finally get to see her powers used for once, intentionally at least. Lilith offers to make a deal that lets everyone go free as long as she opens the vault. Oh, I forgot to mention that she just now gets her tattoos. Just now. We are over an hour into the movie. She's just now getting her tattoos. Lilith begins to open the vault before really bad VFX can take over. I mean this in the most respectful way possible. But this movie looks like you had a group of YouTubers come and work on your $100 million movie. The way they make Lilith look whenever she's in CGI mode is very abysmal. It looks like she came straight out of a PlayStation 3. And I just don't understand how you could make a 3D model look that bad in a $100 million budgeted movie. This fight scene is really boring, by the way. Atlas doesn't do anything at all, once again. All he does is command a ship to shoot lasers at the people he hates. Also, Krieg 100% does not say anything in this shot, but I just thought it was pretty funny.
Nobody kills me but me!
Lilith finally takes Tina and Atlas inside of the vault, which is very disappointing. It's such a big sci-fi room with a bunch of cubes floating around until the tentacles of a Vault Guardian take Atlas, which once again sucks. We don't get to see the actual Guardian come out or whatever, but it's, fuck, we're at the end anyway. This movie's already been bad. A lot of people probably already turned the movie off. The movie ends with a celebration on Sanctuary, and we get to see some neat cameos from Scooter and Ellie, before simply ending with Lilith blowing herself up into a sick Firehawk logo. So, yeah. Thanks, Eli Roth, for this. I was going to say amazing movie, but my body just denied that from me. To close off, I think I'll probably state what I would have done with the movie. I'm not a director, nor am I a Borderlands lore expert. I'm not one diving into the lore of Borderlands heavily. I just really enjoy the games. I probably would have done something along the lines of what Borderlands 2 did, where you are a new Vault Hunter. It doesn't have to be a new Vault Hunter. They could have just did with Roland, where he comes across different people and they all join together and we have a common enemy. Which I guess they kind of did in this one, but they did it in such a very bad way where there's no mystery. There's literally just one problem. And I think that's the biggest flaw with this movie. It's one massive problem and nothing else. There's no side issues or nothing. It's just one big problem, and that's it. Once that problem's done, they're done. That's the movie. It's not like in Borderlands where, you know, there's one thing that goes wrong and you have to go do that, which leads to you finding out this person, and you join them to you add them to your entourage. None of that really happens here. It's really just a bunch of people going around and doing dumb shit. Like, not even really. No action either. Borderlands is an action-packed game, but there's no action. If I look kind of tired and exhausted at the moment, it's probably because I am nervous about posting this video. This is my first like real commentary video that I've made, especially when it goes to talking about a movie and reviewing it. But this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been talking about doing movie reviews for the longest time, over a year now. I've even wrote 2 scripts that I just never used. So I know this is probably going to come out to be dog shit, but you know, bear with me. I'll get better through time. But anyway, if you did enjoy this video and you want to know when I'm going to be making more, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I usually post when I'm working on something, and I always update how it's going and if there's ever a delay in my scheduling. Speaking of my schedule, I will probably make a video talking about why I don't upload very often sometimes. It usually boils down to just a lack of motivation and really just me being very tired. So, yeah. But I'll talk about that more in depth in another time, probably. Anyway, with all that being said, I'm just gonna let you all go. Hopefully you have a good rest of your night or day. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.